Hello, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I am Lady Luck, and I am joined in studio today with Ryan the Lion and our special guest co host today, Mike Hardy. And today we're going to be talking about music and how music can powerfully influence our everyday lives. I'm so excited to dive into this one. Who doesn't love music? Who doesn't get moving and get happy with music? So, without further ado, I'm going to bring us right to Mike. Thank you for joining us, Mike. Say hello to all of our friends out
Thank you,
there.
thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me on today.
For sure.
Um, and what was it? I think 6 months ago you had me on the first time, and it
Yep.
feels like it was just maybe a couple months ago. But I guess when life's good and things are going well, time flies, right?
It
It
does.
does.
Yeah.
It does. So, Mike, why don't for our listeners, for our podcast listeners who didn't have the opportunity to be introduced to you on the TV show, can you give us a little bit of a background of what you do, how you started doing it?
Absolutely. Well, and tonight's topic about how music can be a powerful influence for good. I know a thing or two about music. I've just have had that basically as a lifeline for me pretty much my whole life. Just from a very young age, I started playing piano at 4 years old and discovered that with playing the piano, I had the ability to hear music or hear songs and then recreate it, verbatim. So I could hear songs at a young age and without lessons, manipulate in some way with my small little 4-year old hands, just pluck out the sounds. And I quickly realized on the right side of the keyboard, it's higher sounds, the left side, it's lower. And once I realized I could do that, it became a passion of mine and it's never stopped. I've always enjoyed the challenge of trying to hear songs and then try to recreate them my own way. And then over the years, I've then dove into exploring my own original songs. But definitely, just in general, music's always been something that it deeply affects my mood. It affects for better or worse, I have to say. I've seen how music can, has positive and negative effects depending on what I listen to and when I'm listening to it. So
So people don't know this, but they might not know this about you. And even some of the people that listen to you, a lot of times on Sunday nights, you'll do a show like a Facebook Live, and that
right.
started during COVID, and it's just a way to kind of give back and to calm down and relax yourself, but also to serve and give back to others. But a lot of people wouldn't know that. Yeah, I don't. Can you play the same song exactly the same way twice? It's
So
probably a little bit
great.
harder for you, right?
There's a few that I can, and the ones that I can are songs that I had collaborated with other musicians to create a fuller sound. And so in those cases, you really have to get those down real tight, note by note, because it's like a dance with two people. You have to know every step, or else you're going to trip over each
Mhm.
other. So musically speaking, I really couldn't change things too much, or else it would throw off others, And the interesting part about this is I don't read music, but I know enough on the keyboard what the letters of those keys are. So I know A through G, and I would actually write the music for these other musicians who have master's degrees in music performance, but I had the ability to create the music in my head. So I would write letters on paper and put an arrow up or down to the next letter and then tell them how long to hold each note. So that was my version of writing sheet music. So I've still got scraps of paper and sheet music. It's just a big mess of chicken scratch.
And this isn't like
And
chopstick style, folks. Like if you, oh my gosh, some of Mike Hardy's renditions of songs are, I mean, they will just blow you out of the water. Like I put him up there with some of the top composers that I've ever
Oh,
heard. When he hears, no joke, like because it's not just reading music and composing it. It's composed a lot of times instantly in his head
oh,
mhm.
as
yeah.
he's hearing it in his head right before he hears it in his head, it transfers into the
Hmm.
keyboard. It's insanely powerful.
Yeah.
It's moving, man. Like
Oh,
I
so,
every Sunday, like when you do it, I put on my Facebook wall, I share it out. And the reason, like, I do it for me personally, like I like want to hear it, but I
right.
almost always It's the music that soothes my soul. Like the way that you play and the passion that you put behind the music, it's soothing, it's comforting, it's happiness and joy and peace to me. So anyway,
Man, Ryan, thank you. That means
Yeah,
so much.
I love how you touched on the fact that it can go either way, though, too. And
Yeah.
so it demonstrates that people experience music in different ways, right? So
Yeah.
Ryan could be listening to your music, and I could be listening to your music, and we could both be in a different emotion at the
Yeah.
time, and based on the emotion that we're in at the time, we can experience your music in a different way.
I don't know if you can experience anger while you're listening to your music, though. That's the only emotion.
No,
Like,
but I mean, like, you could be really happy and I could be really sad,
Yeah.
right? And I
Oh,
could
sure.
really move through those emotions of sadness and
Yeah.
cry and do whatever while I'm listening to that music. But then you could be really happy and be dancing with your wife in the kitchen while you're listening to the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
You
we
could
can all
start out.
based
You
on
could
our
start out
emotions.
really sad listening to this stuff, but after a little bit, like there's no
You're just
or
there.
anger. Yeah, it's then
Ryan's
just,
putting
oh
his
my
foot
gosh.
down.
Yeah,
He
that's
is.
right.
I know. It transforms you.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Well, and Ryan, you're right in the fact that generally speaking, those Facebook lives I used to play for almost 2 hours, and then I cut them down. I put a clock in front of me so I'd stop at about an hour. But
I could go forever.
it would be mind-boggling for me to try to memorize an hour worth of music. It's so much easier to just go in with nothing planned and just communicate with those watching and say, hey, can you play How Great Thou Art? Or let these songs come to me that means something to you guys on the other end of the screen. And so really, I'm not planning any songs. And then I'm kind of playing in the emotion that I'm feeling of the way I receive that song.
Mm-hmm.
But you said it really well, Melissa, is that, yeah, we can all kind of interpret it differently. And that's the nostalgia of music, right? It's almost like once in a while when we have a certain smell that brings back a childhood memory, music can do the same thing.
Speaking of childhood smells, we just got Nicholas D. Smith, the MG, in the house. He's joining us live too. This is what a treat this is.
Is that me?
Yeah.
That's Nick. Hi,
Hey,
Nick.
man, Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a little while.
It's been a minute. Yeah. Keep going. I'll
6
dive
months,
in where
but
feels good.
I was
6
telling
months.
Ryan, it felt like a couple months ago.
Feels like 10 years ago.
He goes the other direction.
I'm gonna jump in there before we lose the thought, and I would,
Yeah.
because when you were talking about how you create that and how you aren't prepared with a set list and you move in and you create that through the emotion that you're in at the time and what people are asking you to play, I think it's more authentic that way. The music comes across more authentic and it draws people in more when you're just going with your own emotion.
Well, yeah, well, and then that's in the disclaimer. I always say you're going to hear a few sour notes here and there. It comes with it.
We've got just so you know, like, and for our radio listeners, Lori Parks is won like records, like titles, like world championship style stuff for her music writing abilities and for her writing. So that's pretty amazing to have her on. Lori, we love you.
Thank you for being on, Lori.
Hey, and there's Mr. Steve Hardison. He is music. It moves his soul. Yes, he loves it all. If you haven't seen Steve Hardison dance, you got to look up, see if you can find it somewhere. Find Steve Hardison on Facebook, Instagram. In fact, I saw a little post that he did the other day. Maybe I'll have to ask him for permission to share that in the comments or something. But I could see him in the background dancing at the gym. It was pretty legit. So music is so powerful. It can really
look at the last
you
part
instantly.
of his comment there. From nearer my God to thee to sympathy for the devil.
Right?
Yeah. Keep it broad.
Yeah, but music does have a big impact, and I often you guys know I'm Catholic. I go to church every Sunday, and often I have people ask me why, what I find in church, and one of the biggest things I've said to people, especially during COVID, the music was gone. We weren't allowed to have choirs. We weren't allowed to have anybody up on the altar that wasn't deemed essential. So there was no music. It was just the mass, and I experienced it so much differently. I almost felt lost without the music, as part of the service. And now with the music starting to come back and people being back, I'm really sitting and noticing how much the music moves me. I've actually sat there and listened to the pianist at times and almost been moved to tears, just because the music is just so deep inside of me and it's so moving. So it's incredible to be able to notice that difference.
Yeah, that's what seems so powerful about music. There was that void, not just worship and when with regards to church and like hearing the spoken word, but that music that sometimes is beyond just whatever song it is. It's just the environment and the community and all of that was lost for a while. And a good friend of mine told me about this Facebook page that sprouted during COVID called Social Distant Fest. And I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's basically all live music, just musicians from across the world just coming together. And she told me about it. And so I started playing there like twice a week. And then a light went off and I go, well, wait a minute, there's a whole community of people that I know that, aren't going to church right now. And so that's when I just went on to my own personal page, and it seemed to kind of fill a void for people who were missing the hymns. I play a lot more than that, but the Sunday thing just ended up turning into like Sunday songs, just what people are used to hearing for a while. And obviously things have opened up since, but I just kept doing it because people still want to see it, I guess. So
yeah, I guess, because there's a lot of people that tune in, and it's awesome because the requests like just pour in, man. Like it's awesome. Sometimes he can't even keep up. He's like,
There's always somebody that goes, "Hey, you missed my request." I feel so bad later. Like you get a little distraught because you're trying to focus and play, and then you look back up and it's like 20 comments later, and so I missed some people's requests, but that's kind of the fun of it all, right? I wonder if he's going to play my song.
Ryan, do we have a link to Mike's page that we can?
I'm gonna see. I've got right now. I've got his YouTube channel. So if you go to his YouTube channel, you type in Mike Hardy. You can find his stuff. If you type in "Be Still," that pulls it up really quickly, and then you can subscribe right there and see a bunch of his music that he's recorded anyway.
Yeah, well, just so that we can flood more people over on Sundays too, and
that would be
get
awesome.
some requests in, yeah.
Mike, can I throw us way off course, man?
Throw us off.
Yeah. Are you familiar with history and why music is so impactful? I think about the emotion of music. If you really want to connect with emotions that are going to move you, music is a way to do that. The first written language or story was the story of Gilgamesh, about 25,000 BC, I think, somewhere in there. And I would imagine that music came somewhere around there or before that. And I don't know how much you know around that, but looking at the history of music, do you feel, even if you don't have knowledge around it, do you feel like music has always been a part of human existence in some form?
Yeah, I would tend to lean toward music always being a part of humanity. And I'm not an expert on the history of that, but it doesn't surprise me when you say 25,000 years ago, or, there were obviously music has evolved, but I think this need to express and how the brain is wired to receive sound, and, we use sound for communication, but music is also sound for communication, but it's kind of manipulative sounds of a language to create certain emotions. And even when we're speaking, we do use fluctuation in our voice to create certain emotion. When we're angry, oftentimes our voice pitch goes up or down, or it becomes more forceful, or if we're happy or we laugh, all those sounds are, I think, just part of the human experience. And I think music, has always been around. I would think it would have to be, no one taught me music when I was born. It's just, I think, an innate thing that we have as part of us.
FFF since 2020. Steve Harris, this comment there. I would imagine that would be true. I look at every other animal out there, every creature has some form of song, and so that the music is impactful, and the way it hits the emotions. I mean, the topic of this show, that music can influence our lives powerfully, or how to use that, that's it's one of those tools that if you're ever struggling or down, it's one of those tools you can lean on
Yeah.
to get your mood back. I've even heard that if you are depressed or down, that if you listen to sad music, it'll actually bring you back up.
Yeah. I've heard even because dopamine is like that happy chemical, right? That's the thing that runs through our body, and you could have a certain level of sadness, and that dopamine can kick in when you're listening to a certain sound of music at the right time and right place to literally change the chemical reaction of the brain. So
Sometimes when I'm feeling too happy, I just throw in a sad song, just drop it down.
Just
a notch.
bring you down.
Yeah, I don't want to get translated or something, you know, like it's crazy.
There's other ways, but this is the way that's free. It doesn't cost me. No,
Yeah. You know, I like that you talked about that, though, Nick, because I way back when I had anxiety pretty bad, I had a counselor who had written a song about it and was giving it out to the people that he was counseling, and it was a cute little upbeat song, and it actually helped. It actually made you feel better about the anxiety that you were having, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but
Wow.
but that was part of the therapy. Was he was directing people to this song to listen to it, and it was just, you know, the lyrics were just about how, you know, it'll pass and it's going to get better, but it was a cute little tune and it was very upbeat, and it was very helpful. So he used that as a strategy.
I think it's amazing that even without words, the music can be impactful. And
I think especially without words. Without words. I think when there's no words, you really sit and your body is a part of it. You know what I mean? When you're not listening, you're using other senses, right? When you're not using your ears, you're using your other senses, and you can when there's no lyrics, you can feel that music powerfully, like deep inside your body. I've had those experiences where it's just, and it moves you. I've been moved to tears through, like, not sad tears, but just moved.
Janice likes the words. She's like, no, that's how I experience
I like words.
Janice, perfect.
Yeah.
That's great, because that's however it is to you, right?
Yeah.
But there is something powerful to a song that hits some notes and then just stops and goes quiet. Yeah. It makes you stop and reflect, or like to feel it fully.
Yeah.
And then, to move through to the next part of the song. Mike does that lots in his stuff. Like, there's some stuff that's this huge, just build up and then wham.
Yeah, you know who
and
I
then
learned that from,
everyone
Ryan?
just kind of stops.
Paul Cardall's really
Paul
good at
Cardall.
that. So there's an interview where he talks about that very thing. It's the silence between the noise that actually makes the noise more powerful, because you got to have that contrast. But I like to play heavy and full and bring out that emotion, but it's where you like go into a heavy chord and then just let it roll out, and then you come back in, and just that sound that sits there. So
Paul is very good at that. His music is pretty amazing. In fact, that's kind of how I think that I got connected with you is through Paul and your brother, I think, and then
right.
Kind of interesting.
It's a small world.
It is a really small world. If you haven't listened to Paul Cardall's music too, you can find that on social media as well, and YouTube, Pandora. He's big on Pandora, so check that out.
Well, he's killing it with that new album, December. He's like top on iTunes for his category for this month. It's like,
December's awesome.
Who is this guy?
September Winds was one of my favorite songs on that album. That's a moving. He talked about it in. I went to church and talked about September Winds. He had a little event that he did here in Salt Lake and talked about September Winds and then played for the audience, and absolutely powerful music. Yeah. But I experienced you much the same way as I experienced Paul. Just the level of skill and ability. And I don't think Paul can fully read music. I think he can do it to a degree, but I don't think he's that way either. I think it's most of it's by hearing and feeling.
Well, I've talked to him, and we were so struck with the similarities. Like, we're both left-handed.
Me too.
So in our playing,
except for I can't play the piano.
Left hand. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, I can play a little bit. Not
go lefties, man.
Yeah,
we're like minorities, right?
Lefties.
Can I get into college on that? Can I get a scholarship?
No, I think he only took maybe a lesson or maybe 1 or 2 years when he was a kid, but when he records music, he just sits down and plays, and that's how I do it. I'm not line by line. I just play, and then I just listen to it and maybe clean it up a little, and then call it a day.
Janice did have a good comment earlier. It was like, like he gets on there sometimes, and we want him to say, everybody wants him to sing more, because secretly he doesn't think he has. I don't know if he thinks he doesn't have a good voice, but he has a freaking phenomenal voice. So if you can get Mike to sing, man, you got to do it at some point.
I hadn't started singing until this Facebook Live thing, so even my family are going, "Wait, what are you doing? You're going to sing? What?"
He's good.
It's really good. That they're not there for the music, Mike. They're there for the dreamy eyes, man.
Your audience is strangely mostly women and me. That's weird.
It's all Ryan's my one guy that just is a loyal fan. There's about 5 on there with Ryan.
Yeah. Melissa, do you sing?
Oh my goodness, no.
Are you an extrovert?
Well, I am an introvert, Mr. Alex Dumas, asking Lady Luck to sing. I'm an introvert, and yes, I was in the church choir when I was a child. I don't sing anymore, but I do sing at church with my children, and my daughter is a soloist at church, and so I was
not even shower singing. No, nothing. Just
not anymore. My daughter is the shower singer in our house, and it's so funny. Someone just said that to me tonight. I was on a call tonight, and they the question they asked me was when I was 10 years old, what did I love to do? And I said dance and sing, and they said, do you do that anymore? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, that's your homework. I want you to dance and sing once every day with your kids. And I was like, oh, wow.
Do it. Pictures or it didn't happen. Video.
Isn't that such a scary thing? Now. The things that we fear,
Yeah.
Even if you have the talent for it, it's like there's such a fear. And the longer we go, in that shell, it's just so hard to break through it.
Mike Hardy have fear? What?
Yeah, I got fear, man. No, singing is like a scary thing for me. The piano, I think I just became accustomed to it at such a young age that I never learned to be like fearful playing in front of people. But singing's a whole nother battle. I do that to stay humble.
It's something that I used to do with my kids before the pandemic hit. I had a mentor of mine at the time tell me, if you want to be doing something or spending time at a certain place or traveling or being at luxury resorts and that kind of stuff, start stepping into those places in small ways. So if there's a big luxury resort that you'd love to be spending time at, go have a coffee in the cafe at the resort, right? And start stepping into those places in small ways. So I started taking my kids to this local place. It's called Great Wolf Lodge. There are some of them in the States too. I don't know if you've heard of them. So Great Wolf Lodge, it's expensive to be able to stay there. They have a huge water park, but you can go to the restaurant there and eat at their buffet. And so I was taking the kids just to the restaurant and having the buffet dinner. But on certain days of the week in the lobby for all of the hotel guests, they had big dance parties. And so they would put on music for an entire hour, and everybody staying at the resort would congregate in the lobby and dance. So I would take my kids to the restaurant to eat on those days and then just send them into the dance party, and they would just have an hour of just dancing like crazy to all this music. And it brought so much joy. It was an incredible thing to do with them.
That is so awesome. Powerful.
I'll tell you a little secret. Should I tell you a secret for the viewers at home? I was in the madrigal and a cappella choir in high school, so I can sing a little.
Yes.
Just a little?
Not a lot, just a little.
Well,
lots of shower singing.
Maybe you should demonstrate. Maybe you should be the one to demonstrate for us.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
Alex has got the wrong person. He's pointing
I got a
me out,
piano right here.
You
want to go live?
Let's go, Ryan.
I can't.
I'm loving this, dude. I'm not even showing up in this. I can't sing, so I'm good.
We're gonna turn this into the Ryan show.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
that's amazing. So magical.
All of a sudden, the viewership went way down. They're like, "Oh, geez, this is gonna happen." What? And good night.
People are flocking over to see it.
So I want to dive into this powerful influence, of music, for good or for bad. Can we go dark a little bit?
That's good.
Sure.
Yeah, a little
Bad
bit.
bad times. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'll let you go dark for 5 minutes. Then
Go
we'll
to
go
the
to a
dark
break.
side.
5 minutes of dark, and then we'll bring the light back. But
Yeah.
I mean, if it's influential in one direction, it can be influential in the other, right? And so choosing what we listen to has an impact. And so I remember my first song or first concert, not first song, was Clutch and Bad Religion in Vegas.
Nick's a
And
good singer
man,
too, by the way.
it was rough and it was intense and it was fun and but different energy, more of a violent, darker energy, right around that. And so just, listening to music, I listen to softer music now than I did when I was a teenager and younger. But I think I was more full of adrenaline back there,
Yeah.
and the other stuff. And so, it's just kind of that energy that I wanted to be in at that time. But now it's like, yeah, I don't want that in my space right now. There's some music I like to throw back to, like some Metallica or Ozzy Osbourne, some really cool old rock. But even if it can have an impact, What do you guys think around that?
I mean, I completely agree. I played piano when I was younger, and then I went about almost 20 years. I didn't touch a piano until I was like 19 years old, or I was 21. So I would say about 15 years where I didn't play. So I played as a little kid, and then I went all my teen years, just got caught up in the sports and everything. But I was all totally into rap music and there's great rap music. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the contrast of what I play right now, the mood that it brings versus rap, that got me pumped. That got me, and you're right. Probably the teenage years is just, I couldn't stay still, and the music just fit that energy. But, I came from played on the high school basketball team, and we had a lot of homies with some really good music, let's just say. And, but yeah, that's just what I knew. And that was the dominant kind of music I listened to. And then when I went to church, it would be contrasted with listening to hymns on the organ or the piano. But music moves me, so many different genres of music can move me. But yeah, I saw where lyrically speaking, a lot of that music didn't probably bring out the best in me, or my thoughts didn't go in the right places. Because we're just the product of what we're thinking. That's what gets manifest in the real world, and the music can feed thoughts in any direction, and then that can play out in ways, even in subtle ways and even bigger ways over a long course of time. So I found when I started shifting and kind of getting into music that brought my focus into alignment of where I wanted to go in life, and listen to music that was a little more meditative speaking, it just really cleared my head, and it helped me to just see more clearly in the direction I wanted to go. Answers started coming into what I wanted to do in life and clarity, but music just seemed to serve that for me,
Yeah.
I recall having that experience as a teenager, actually. My mom at the time had decided that everybody that year, each of me and my two sisters, were going to be able to pick a concert that we wanted to go to for our birthdays. And so we each got to choose, but the whole family went to the concert together. And I recall my younger sister picking New Kids on the Block, and I wasn't really into that. So it was not a fun experience for me. And my older sister picked Depeche Mode because that's what she was into. So my older sister had picked first. So the very first concert I ever went to was Depeche Mode. And I was totally like, I don't want to be listening to this, right? Because it just wasn't the space that I was in, right? It wasn't music that I would have chosen. But I recall having that experience, knowing that this is not what I want to be taking in right now. I had this certain genre of music, and went to these concerts because that's what my sisters were into, and I recall it being just a so experience, because it wasn't something that I wanted to be taking in. And I'll tell you, the crazy thing about that is that I never got to pick a concert because my birthday was in December. And by the time we got to December, there was no concerts playing. They were all, so I ended up going to a play instead of a concert. And I tell that story all the time to my kids, because my sisters got these amazing concerts, and I went to see Dick Whittington and his cat. I'll never forget the name of this Christmas
I don't think I would forget that
play,
either.
right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah, yeah.
Christmas
Ever
play
seen
that
Dick
I ended up
Whittington?
going to. Dick Whittington and his cat. I'll never forget it. So that, but I just recall having that experience with the music because it wasn't really what I wanted to be taking in, and I was there in support of my sisters at the time. So
Yeah.
I get where Nick's coming from with that. And on that note, I'm going to take us out to a commercial break. For all of you listeners, we will be right back in 2 minutes.
2 whole
Perfect.
minutes.
2 whole minutes. So
That
we're
got
still
us out
in
of
social.
that's
Have to
got us
wait
out
it
of
out.
singing, Nick.
There you go.
158, 157,
Yeah.
156.
Well, we're
Count it
still
all
on
down.
socials. So do we have any comments or anything that we can?
We could do a
any
quartet real
questions?
quick.
They wanted this.
Oh
They
my
wanted me to
goodness.
sing.
I'm in, dude. I'll sing.
Oh, we'll sing.
I'll sing.
I'm going bass.
Are you?
Oh,
You're gonna
oh,
sing,
shoot.
Nick?
What are we
No.
singing?
Not
What?
a chance.
Why are you?
That could be bad.
I was counting on the fact that you weren't gonna sing, and I was gonna like stick with you. And
I-
now you're
I
saying
don't-
do a quartet. I'm
I
like,
don't know
shit.
what we're gonna sing. What are we singing?
I just want to put everyone in the hot seat.
Row your boat. We could
Oh,
do-
that could be good. The overlap.
yeah.
Row your
Oh.
boat
Row,
gently
row,
down the
row your
stream.
boat.
That's gonna be
your
bad.
boat.
That's all we got. That's it.
It's an echo.
That's it.
That's funny.
Ryan does have a nice voice. I caught it
He
there.
does.
He does.
Madrigals. Not everyone gets into madrigals.
No, you have to try out. It's terrible.
I was always behind the scenes in the musicals in high school. I could sing, but I always did I ran the the soundboard or the lighting and stuff like that behind the scenes.
Nice. That's amazing.
That was probably fear stopping me from actually trying out.
So where do we want to take it in the second half? What do you guys want to talk about? What do our
I want to talk a
viewers
little
want?
bit about the positive influence it can have with my kids with music.
Yeah, let's do that.
As a dad who can play music.
Do they listen
Yeah, but
to yours?
in order to be the cool dad, you got to know all the Billie Eilish songs. You got to know the Taylor Swift. I mean, so that's how I connect with my kids. My daughter in 11th grade, she sang a solo last week for a performance, and she was just shaking in her boots, man. She was so scared, but it brought such a confidence because everyone loved it. And that's what it's about, overcoming fears, because she has a passion to sing, and she's playing around, plucking around on the piano. She doesn't want to take lessons because dad didn't, right? So, but they all have this ability to learn pretty quickly on the piano, but sometimes they might feel a little overwhelmed because then they think they're supposed to just play as proficient as I do so quickly. So I just remind them, just stay with it. But what I'll do is I'll play and they'll sing in the living room, and we got to play the cool stuff though, and then that's my connection with my kids is we just do music. I get them half the time. So half the time the house is quiet, but then when we have them together, we'll have dinner. And then after we're just shooting songs out, for an hour, nothing's planned. But
that's awesome.
That's a
it.
good way that I connect with them to, in a way that seems effortless for all of us.
Awesome. Okay, so hold that thought and we'll talk about that as we come back in.
Absolutely.
Repeat it all word for word. Though.
Yeah, repeat it all. All right, now be quiet, Nick. All right, welcome back to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I'm Lady Luck, and I'm joined in studio with Ryan the Lion, Nick the Gentle Giant, and our special guest co-host, Mike Hardy. And today we're talking about how music can powerfully influence our everyday lives. And as we're coming back into the second half of this episode, I think we were talking about on the break that we're going to delve into how music can influence our children and our relationship with our children. So go ahead and tell our podcast listeners what you were talking about, Mike.
Absolutely. So I have 4 kids, and they range from 19 years old down to 3 years old. So I'm covering all ages in between.
I'm calling you for parenting advice.
Dude.
Yeah, right? Oh my
You may
goodness.
not want to.
Yeah. I hope there's no
so I've
baby
got
shark in there.
19, 16, 12, and 3. So, took a break for a while, I guess. So, but I got a lot of built-in babysitters, let's just say. But really with music, it's always been this way from my kids being really little to when they were crying real, you know, how babies cry as infants, I would just hold them in my lap and go to the piano. And literally within a 1 or 2 minute transformation, they go from crying to just, they wanted to be quiet to hear the music. And I would just play, just something like a little music box, high piano, real light piano with my right hand. I'm kind of holding them in my lap with my left hand. And it was amazing to just watch their behavior just literally change. And so they don't know anything different. They just have always had music in their lives. They are musically gifted in ways. One of them has perfect pitch. The other ones can sing really well. I didn't get the singing part, but the piano part is the way I connect with my kids, because, now 3 of them are teenagers, and, oftentimes when kids become teenagers, mom and dad aren't necessarily as cool as they were when they were 5. We used to be their heroes, but, once in a while I'm a little smart and the light went off and I go, man, maybe I can leverage this music thing, learn what they love, like Billie Eilish or Taylor Swift, any of the songs that are current, listen to what they're listening to and come home and play it. And then they love to sing along to it. And that's our connection.
That's perfect parenting advice right there, is learn what they love and then use it against them.
That's the advice. Every parent learn to play the piano and play with your kids.
Yes.
No, I love that's a bonding thing though. And I think especially at Christmas time for me and my kids, that's bonding for us. In the car when we're driving, the 3 of us just belt out the Christmas songs that are playing on the radio.
Yeah.
And it's always been kind of a tradition for us, when we're decorating the house and when we're doing our Christmas baking, they get to pick the whatever Christmas CD we're going to put on, and we just sing Christmas music. That's a huge thing for us at Christmas time for sure. Huge bonding thing. Yeah.
I just jam out all the time.
Christmas time too, but the nostalgia of those songs only coming around once a year. So yeah.
Well, beautiful. my kids would listen to that all year round. Like they would watch Christmas movies all year round. They would listen to Christmas music all year round if they could. They absolutely love it.
Right.
For some reason. I recall actually, as when they were babies as well, we had a certain a playlist in the car that we used to have for them. It was like the Little Einsteins
Baby
soundtrack.
Einstein.
The Baby Einsteins that we had. It was the Little Einsteins, I think it was called. It was like a soundtrack that we had in the car.
Yeah.
And then Raffi. Do you guys remember Raffi? Down by the Bay.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Nobody's ever. Oh my! Oh my goodness!
We're not going to
Raffi.
admit to it.
I know, right? I just aged myself hugely. Yes, I know. But we had Raffi in the car, and I swear, I don't know what it was about that music, but it calmed them down when they were babies. Anytime anybody was upset, we had that. We went through the playlist of music, and it was very calming. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. The Baby Einstein was the classical music, right?
Baby Einstein's was, but this was Little Einstein's. There was a TV.
Okay.
There was a kids cartoon.
That.
There was a kids cartoon called The Little Einsteins,
and then right after was Caillou.
Oh,
Caillou.
Oh my gosh, Caillou is a swear word. Okay,
mind numbing.
Yeah.
Caillou. Oh my, Caillou is the whiniest toddler I have ever seen in my life. I couldn't listen to that show. Oh my goodness.
Lisa knows who they are. I don't know who they are, but
yeah. So it was like a soundtrack from the Little Einstein show, but Baby Einstein's was classical music too.
Yeah.
My kids were never into that as babies, the Baby Einstein stuff.
Yeah. It just depends with each kid, but I think the general thing is that certain music gravitates and more to certain people, and as we get older, we talk about the nostalgia of how certain sounds, same with taste or smells, different senses that are triggered over time that bring back certain memories,
Yeah.
I just think music needs to be a part of every child's life, because it's so easily accessible to bring you back into those happy memories, just by hearing a song again that you haven't heard for 20 years.
Do you guys know the pan flute? Have you ever seen a pan flute? Do you know
Yeah.
what that is? Do Nick and Ryan, do you know what a pan flute is?
I think so.
Okay, so when my daughter was young, she was in her crib, and he's gonna Google a pan flute now. I hadn't changed her crib into the toddler bed yet, and she was
no, it's like a Peter Pan looking thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. So she was so
Pan flute.
mischievous. That's a pan flute. Yeah,
Made
she
of
was
bamboo.
so yeah, my daughter was so mischievous. She taught herself how to climb out of the crib. She literally like got one foot over and then spread her arms across it and like got the other leg over and dropped herself to the floor. And so I was so worried that she was going to hurt herself that I changed her crib to a toddler bed early before anyone was comfortable with it. And she would not sleep in that bed. She was in a chair. She was on the floor. I took the mattress out of the bed and put it on the floor. The girl would not sleep. I spent months trying to get this kid to sleep. So we're at this craft fair, this festival, and there's this man playing the pan flute, and he's selling his CDs. And all of a sudden, my mom realized that my daughter is mesmerized by this pan flute. So we buy the gentleman's CD, and I kid you not, Hours of Fun, the pan flute.
It's cheaper than a
$15 on
grand
Amazon.
piano.
$15. Yeah.
I kid you not, we bring
Might order
this
some.
CD home, and my daughter slept in her bed with this pan flute CD. She couldn't go anywhere without it. It was
That's
there,
amazing.
and for years, every night when she went to bed, I put this pan flute CD on. It was the only way she went to sleep.
Really?
It was absolutely incredible. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have any memories that come up of people that have been influenced by your music? Like that, a story that maybe somebody shared, or I don't know if maybe anything comes to mind.
That's a big question. So I've been playing for a long time. I think I'll just bring up one that's even more recent. Just a few months ago, a best friend of mine that I've known for 21 years passed away from COVID. And this was a guy that was always going to be around. He died at 53 years old. He was always cautioned of what he ate. You know, he had type 2 diabetes, but he was always careful about what he ate. Went to the gym. He ran his own business. Like he's just a real go-getter in life. Just everyone that knew him loved him. He always felt good, you know, walking away from him for 5 minutes or 5 hours. He was just that guy. But his wife had asked me to play at the funeral, and there was about 400 people there. And it was just so powerful because I played a song. They didn't tell me or request a specific song. They just said, we trust whatever you'll play. We know it'll be great, whatever. But I felt so moved because I was playing something that just felt internally something to express through music. And I felt the change in the room. You know, we had these amazing people giving testimonials of this man named John. And somewhere in the middle of that event, they had me play the music, and it's just the collaboration of the spoken word and the music. Just you could touch the spirit in the room, you know, so to speak. It was just people were weeping. They didn't know the song, but they felt something. And I only bring that up because it's just so recent, but I've seen that so many times in my life where people have asked me to share music at a wedding. So even in the most happiest moments, like a day that someone's going to make vows to their loved one for the rest of their life, down to people losing the love of their life, I've always been a part of these super highs or super lows in people's lives, sharing the music, because it can soothe and heal in dark times, and it can also uplift and celebrate in really good times.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, it's almost magical the way it does that. I mean, it creates that connection regardless of the situation. Doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah.
Huh.
So my experience of music, it just really sits close to me because it's not, you know, a lot of times when I'm playing in front of people, it's people that are vulnerable or there's a high emotional reason I'm there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that is, why I'm sharing my music. And so I'm always impacted greatly in those kind of moments. And it's not monthly, but it's probably every other month for the last 20 years where I'm playing somewhere for something, for somebody. But yeah, like
Say
I'm
even
playing
on
this
your
Friday.
even
I'm
on
playing
your oh,
actually on Saturday for a lady who lived next door to me where I grew up, and her daughter asked me to play for this, and it's in Huntington Beach, California. I haven't seen this family for 30 some odd years because they had moved out of the neighborhood, but this is like a reuniting to see these people who used to be my neighbors. And she's turning 90 years old, and it's this big birthday, and I'm going there to play live music for the event. So these are the kind of things that I feel blessed to just always be a part of.
Yeah, wow. Ryan, you had some thoughts there.
I was just gonna say that, like, I'm sure there's, like you've got stories of people that do share, what they're feeling with you. But then there's probably a ton of people that are at home, because I know this to be true for myself, is sitting on the other side of the camera, listening to your music on Sundays, and feeling a particular way or an emotion, and like it's almost like something was played or picked out, just for me at that moment
Mm,
that I needed it. That happens to me a lot in I don't know if it's just, that the universe, God, source knows that something that I need, something, a message to come through, and that I'm open or in tune
I love that.
to music, the messages that can come through that way. And sometimes the music can really, really touch a heart
Mm,
in a way that maybe somebody speaking to you can't. And
yeah,
so,
Hmm.
yeah, so I've felt that on the other end. I'm sure that there's a lot of your viewers that are going through some really tough things,
yeah,
and boom, you feel inspired to play a particular song, or somebody
yeah,
else feels inspired
Yeah.
to request a particular song that then impacts that person.
yeah. Amen to that. That's probably been the biggest lesson I've learned out of all these Facebook lives. You realize how much people can be hurting, and how real mental health can play a toll on an individual, or even one person impacting a family. Depression, anxiety, things like that are very real and very critical to not turn an eye to away from. We need to receive these people with love, and people that are just in hard times. And I'll get messages after these Facebook lives of people just thanking me. Maybe it was playing their request, or like you had mentioned, sometimes I just play a song that I'm feeling like a prompting to just play. Not necessarily a song that hits home deeply to me, but they're like, I'm so glad you just played that song. That was the song that um, my son who died last year, that was his song when he was baptized. Or, there's endless amount of stories and examples of where I feel like the spirit just aligned perfectly for, these type of things to play out. So yeah, I don't have all the answers to how that works, but I just keep trying to do what I do. And um, I just feel so blessed for it. Yeah. To be a part of, you know, I'm learning from these people who are encouraging me, because my life's not always easy too. And I'm seeing the strength of other people and how they endure hardships, and their faith is so much stronger than mine on so many levels, that I'm going, I needed to see that, this person's going through
Hmm.
something way harder than me right now. And I'm seeing how strong they are. So there's this reciprocation back and forth that helps me to gain just as much as anybody else, or more. So,
I've had times where I've had dark moments and a song shows up. Somebody was thinking of me and they sent the right song,
oh, yeah.
or I send the right song to somebody else. Or, it reminds me, this is a little off topic, but when I was a teenager, I'd create mixtapes, right?
Yeah.
Put together the music and send it to
You
somebody.
too.
Kids
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
home are like, now they have no idea
YouTube.
what's a tape.
Yeah. But the idea is that it can be a gesture of caring, a gesture, like you said, Ryan. It's sometimes we don't have the words for it, but somebody
Yeah.
else does, and we can send their music. Or we don't have the emotion for it, and we can send Mike's music, and it's like, that's exactly what I needed to feel. And it's more about the feeling, because I think that inspiration comes from the feeling,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a way just to show that we care.
Yeah. Sometimes the music could even just start a process. It doesn't necessarily heal entirely, but it can be, a prompting or something that the music just was enlightening in some way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love so Beethoven, obviously one of my favorites, you know, because I learned classical growing up too. I love all types of music, but he said that music always became more readily available in his mind than words. Like he could just sit down and play as if it's a conversation to himself or to somebody, than coming up with words to express a thought, you know. And I often feel the same way, you know. I feel like I can just sit down and, without telling you what I'm thinking, almost play what I'm thinking, or at least capture the mood or the emotion that I'm feeling. And it's like this indirect communication that's happening through sound. So
Yeah, I think I feel that way sometimes in my meditations. I listen to guided meditations that have music with them.
yeah,
And I
right,
feel like sometimes if I'm doing a meditation that's more of a silent meditation and not listening to that music that's guiding it, I have a fully different experience.
right.
I feel like the music in those meditations allow my brain and my mind to bring me somewhere, to actually see visualizations and bring me to a different place in those meditations, whereas when I don't have that music, I don't go to those places in the meditations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now I'm possibly going to be taking on a project with my girlfriend's brother. He's a producer in the film industry, and he's actually working on the 25-year anniversary of the movie Titanic. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a documentary of the cast members from the
Mm-hmm.
original film of 1997. And he will be sending me just visual clips and scenes, and he's challenging me to create music to fit the appropriate mood or
Wow.
vibe, or to collaborate the audio and the video to this that's going to be coming out this year or
Wow.
next year. And it's like, that's the real test, right? You know, it's supposed to be this big documentary coming out, and, you know, my mind's always hearing sounds, and even when I'm just walking down the street or I'm in the store, I'm hearing tunes that can be fitting to even just in a store. So I've always enjoyed like film score type music, but this will be a whole nother challenge because it's a documentary. So like, it's not like the
Okay,
original
I want to.
movie. And I mean, some beautiful music came out of that movie. So he wants me to kind of tickle and entertain that main theme of the songs, but come up with ideas and other sounds. So we'll see what comes of that.
Mike, what do you got?
Like, yeah, I got a thought around it. You know, with all creation, any kind of creation, we have this thing that we visualize being at the end of, right? A place to rest. We call it a purpose, a place to rest. And that'll be after that event, right? Is your place to rest.
Yeah.
And so I'd imagine if you were at the other side of that event, this has all come together and it's completed and it's beautiful and it's perfect. But up until that point after the event, that purpose, right? It's still unknown. And you're looking at all of the possibilities, and everything's a possibility, just like life. Every sound is a possibility. Every interaction is a possibility. And if you were rigid in your ways and it had to be a certain way, and that how to at the end of that had to look a certain way, and if it didn't, it'd be a failure.
Yeah.
Coming out the other side of that could look totally different, right? Versus
Absolutely.
leaving it open to whatever the universe has in store for that. That's what you have in mind, or maybe even better.
Yeah.
Allows it all to come in. Does that trigger anything for you? Or
I think, if anything, I just realized how nuanced music can be, you know, how it's such an interpretive thing, and the takeaway can be so different from one person to the next. You know, I've noticed when so Ryan, you mentioned my Facebook Live here and there, and then I'm playing songs that are melodically familiar to people. Sure, I might have my own spin on it, but people are kind of playing the lyric in their mind. But that social distance fest that I talked about, where I would play, it's a different platform, but that's the one where I would just play my own stuff for 30 minutes or an hour. And so no one has any memory of the song. No one, it's all internalized to their own experiences, and they all will. It's very interesting, the comments that come through on a song that I'm not even knowing what I'm playing, because I'm playing in real time, and coming up with a theme as I'm going along, and then I lock in the main melody, and then I do a bridge and then a chorus. People are coming from all walks of life and all different experiences and different emotions coming into the same place, hearing the same thing, yet not hearing the same thing, because it runs through a filter of experiences. So music is just really a very nuanced thing. But, you know,
I just had a thought about, like, as you were talking about, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but how a lot of times you piece together, it comes to you as you start the process. So you sit down at the keyboard, you start a song, and you've got a general idea of how this is going to look.
Yeah.
But until you sit down and start actually doing, you start playing, and it comes to your mind of, okay, now here's what's next. Okay, now I've got to put this in it. Now I got to do this to it. And then it comes, right? It didn't come before that point in time.
Yeah.
You just start
doesn't.
playing. And I think that creation is done in a very similar way. A lot of people will sit back and just, hope that, through life that things will come to them and they can just, just create. But I think that once you have to get engaged into something, start something. You don't have to know exactly how it's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
God, intuition, the universe, source, inspiration. It comes as you start putting one foot in front of the other, or one finger on, in front of the other, and start playing. And then the master can take over and fill in the blanks and make it into a masterpiece, and make you into a masterpiece.
I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, that just kind of hit me just now. I'm like,
I love that. And I love the parallel, because sometimes we have to use things that are even sometimes we think are more mundane or more common. Like, we can probably all ride a bike, right? But now we can ride a bike down the street side by side and carry a whole conversation, or hold a drink in one hand, maybe no hands on the handlebars. At one time, that was something that was so hard to think. There's 5-10 things we have to think about to not fall, and then we fall and we cut our knees up. But like, it's just repetition and perfection on any level of anything we do. That after so long, we just went through an hour literally with no one memorized what they were going to say, yet we just fluidly, creatively, and in real time evolved into a conversation.
I sat at work all day long, and I was like, this is exactly how I'm going to
say it. How stressful would that have been to memorize all of that for an hour? So that's my music. I don't memorize. I just
Well, that wouldn't have been authentic. That wouldn't have been authentic if we were just memorized and reading it off a page, right? And that's why your music comes across as so authentic, because it's just flowing out of you in a creative way.
And no matter what, it's perfect. At the end of the day, you kind of forgive the things that aren't what you had in mind, and you call it good, and you wrap it up, and you package it, and you ship it off, and then you go do it again the next time or the next day, right? It comes out the way it comes out. It's created the way it's created. It's beautiful.
I like to always think perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
Because perfection is not, it's a status that if we try to always live by, we're going to constantly feel like we're failing. But it's the perfectly imperfect outcomes that we should embrace, because that's part of being human, right?
Yeah.
So if someone can walk away after an hour and hear those couple dozen bad sour notes that I hit, because I hear them, but what's the overall message or feeling that we got, so, I mean, a lesson in there is just in anything, not just with music, but just, be gentle with ourselves and all that we do, and love the process, love the failures, love the highs, love the lows, and just keep our head on, and always just know that, messing up is part of that journey. It just is.
I love
we wouldn't do anything if we thought we had to be perfect at it.
The word perfect, right? The word the Latin word perfect, perficere, to perform and to complete. That's what it means. It doesn't mean flawlessness. And so if you're performing it and you're finishing it, following it through, then you're doing it perfectly. And so imperfectly, right? Like you say, the way we define it. And so just do it, follow it through. Melissa,
absolutely.
Yeah. Love that.
And that was an incredible place to end the episode too. We've got under a minute here to go. So does anybody have any last quick thoughts that
Mike,
they want to...
let's give it to Mike.
I just want to know, where's the time go?
Right?
Give the mic to Mike.
That's
Yeah.
right.
No, I mean, honestly, we could reiterate and regurgitate that all day. I wouldn't have started the Facebook Lives if I didn't learn over the years to just take down my OCD a notch, and
Mhm.
my idea of perfectionism, because I used to be way harder on myself.
Hmm.
And sure, on the surface, people probably thought I had it all together, but I was just not comfortable in my own skin. Now I'm a little more free to allow it to be more present and just feel in the moment and not be scripted, and just let the failures and stumbling blocks get in our way and just climb over them, when they show up. But it's all about the direction we're heading. And I think that's just something that a lot of people struggle with, is just sometimes we can be so forgiving to other people, but then we're so hard on our own selves. So treat yourself how you love other people. We're so willing to forgive and tolerate other people's mistakes. But sometimes we don't sleep well at night because we're just kicking ourselves for whatever it is. We're not doing this well enough, or we're not a good enough parent, or we're not pretty enough, or just, that's all got to stop.
It's the one that gets me.
Love
Not pretty
ourselves.
enough.
Oh, goodness. All right. On that note, we're going to say goodbye to our podcast listeners. Thank you very much for joining us today, Mike. We appreciate you. And I'm
Thank
going to
you.
invite, thank you. I'm going to invite all of our listeners to join us next week, where our special guest co-host is Lute Brian Smith, and we'll be talking about the creative power of our words, feelings, and thoughts. Thanks for
Beautiful.
joining us, friends.
Love you too.
Thank you, Melissa. Good to see you, Nick and Ryan.
You too.
Hang
All
tight
right,
for
guys.
just 1 sec.
Yeah, hang tight for a minute. If Nick can stop talking. No, I love it. That was awesome.
That time goes quick, man.
It does.
That goes
forgiveness
faster
piece
than my
at the
1
end.
hour Facebook Live.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does it feel long when you're playing? Do you feel
It feels even faster when I'm playing.
Oh, it does. Okay.
I have no sense of time, so that's why I used to go over 2 hours, because I didn't have a clock in front of me.
Holy cow!
And I have people on the East Coast up till 2 a.m. because I wouldn't start those till like 10 or 9 at night.
The craziest thing is
Pacific.
they'd sit on it. They'd like there's like a decent amount of viewers sitting there till super late. It was kind of awesome.
Right. It was crazy.
That's
it was
cool.
Crazy.
Ryan's like, those are my people.
My people, the late night peeps. Hi guys.
Ryan is the most loyal fan. When I know I got
Holy
Ryan
cow.
on there, the night feels complete. I'm like, yes, got Ryan on there.
He truly is. He truly is.
Ryan's
Yeah.
the one that's up till like I get messages from Ryan my time at like 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, what was he doing up?
I swear he doesn't sleep. His posts show up at any random hour of the day.
They do.
Or
Well,
night.
I don't. I'm like on do not disturb at 11:00, so I'm not seeing it till
if
the
you're
morning.
my friend, you may just want to put yourself on do not disturb after you go to bed.
Just on Ryan more.
Yeah.
So.
You know,
Sorry, everybody.
and it's funny. Having said that, I never put do not disturb on my phone before, and when I started with the league, and we had people in Australia and
Yeah.
people in
That's our
all
fault.
different time
All right.
zones, I was like, okay, 11:00, the do not disturb goes on. Because some of our chats would just like explode, and I'd be in bed sleeping, and I'd wake up to all these bings going
Your
on.
pages.
So-
Yeah.
Go to
Take
bed.
her a week to go backwards.
Right. Swiping through.
Hey, what's
Sometimes.
your favorite musician, Michael? Let's hit a couple of these. If
Question.
anybody
yes.
else has comments, questions,
I
jokes,
see.
riddles.
Favorite musicians. So again, we talked about music. It depends what chapter of my life, right? So, Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like film score.
Yep.
So he's a pianist, like that's his main thing, but he's more of a musician than just a pianist because he writes film score. He's just amazing, incredible. Look up Hans Zimmer. Paul Cardall has been one in the last like 5-10 years, just because of the emotion that comes through his music. His story's powerful. There's so many. So again, I go back to classical because some of my piano will tie in some of the classical genres and certain chords that I use. There's a whole jazz side that I play, Ryan, that you don't know, but I should just do a jazz night.
Yeah, you should.
What if we do a jazz hymns night? with that.
That would be awesome. It's
That
like a
would actually be
mix.
fun.
You get a mixed bag of people that'll show up. That'd be
Yeah.
good. I love that.
Yeah.
You know who's phenomenal? Do you follow Danny Elfman?
Why? I
Boingo
think I know the
Boingo, Danny
name.
Elfman. He did the music for the Nightmare Before Christmas. He does like a lot of the film scores and stuff.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
just incredibly talented. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
different
lot of
style.
people that people know the songs, but they don't know who wrote them.
Yeah.
You know, David Foster, you know, he's the one that wrote like every big Celine Dion hit, Michael Bublé hit. Like,
Wow.
like everyone's like,
Michael
who's
Bublé.
David Foster? But he's this phenomenal songwriter. He wrote every big hit you could think for the last 20 years.
He has. I went to, I'm a huge Michael Bublé fan. So there was a period of time where I was kind of hitting Michael Bublé in Ottawa, Toronto, Buffalo, in a
Nice.
bunch of different places. And at the time, I found out that he was going to be in Vegas, but it was a David Foster and Friends show. So it
Right.
was David Foster running it, and he had all of his musicians that he had written for and worked with
Yeah.
came into the show. It was incredible.
Peter
Absolutely
Cetera,
incredible.
back from the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And then people go, oh, wait, this is his show. He's bringing in all these big dogs.
Yeah.
But he made them big dogs.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
He did. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Titanic. Like he wrote, I mean, there's just so many songs that, you know, are amazing and incredible. So I've been watching him for, gosh, half my life. Back when he had the long mullet and a mullet.
I got
Who
some
we
Michael
looking at there?
Bublé. This is some Michael Bublé
Oh.
queued up.
There's Michael.
Yeah.
You know Michael.
I like the Michael. He's pretty
Yeah.
good.
All the best.
Well, then
singers.
there's a William Joseph that he was Mormon. About 10 years ago, he went to a David Foster concert, and I guess his best friend had ties with David Foster, and they showed up 2 hours early just to kind of see where they're going to sit, and then they were going to go get some dinner and then come back. Phenomenal. Did I lose you guys?
Nope, we got you.
Okay, I lost picture there. But his best friend went up to David Foster and he said, you got to hear my friend. He's phenomenal. And this is the kind of guy David Foster is. He listened to him and he got his orchestra in real time to just start playing background to his piano music. And he said, you're going to come back in 2 hours and open my show.
No way.
So that's how he became big.
Wow.
So David Foster is always looking out for people's careers and looking for, you know, just really good talent out there. So
Yeah,
Man,
someone
so
just
much
put in the
respect.
comments. Someone just put in the comments that he started Josh Groban's career too. Josh Groban was at that concert as well.
Yeah, Josh Groban.
Groban is incredible. Absolutely
he's
an
incredible.
amazing singer.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
The guy that I play the viola with, who I partner up with a lot of my music, he's got a master's from Juilliard, and but he went to the same high school as Josh Groban, and they were in the same choir and band. So
Oh wow,
Small
that's
world.
cool. That's cool,
now he's going, man, I wish I would have stayed friends with him longer.
right? Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there you
But
go.
yeah,
there's
they have an album together as well.
Hey, look at that. David Foster was just unmasked on The Masked Singer.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to go find that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Which
You
character
just
was
Google
he?
David Foster songs, and you won't believe the songs that come up. You'll
Yeah.
probably have no clue that he wrote some of the songs that
Wow.
we've been singing for years.
That's it. I think that's
listening to.
interesting too. Is sometimes people are behind the scenes creating, and they just don't. There's not that recognition. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's big in the world, but I wouldn't know who he was. But I'd know his
Yeah.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The attention goes to the singer, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
or Paul Cardall. No.
Yeah.
Or Paul Cardall. The Paul Cardall show. Yeah.
Well, that's our after show. It's
That's
killer.
is.
We appreciate you being here like that and your time, Mike, for spending some time with us.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to have you back on and do some more things with us in the future, if that's all right.
My blessing. I'm so glad I was on, and I appreciate the invite again and to catch up again.
Thanks,
You're
Mike.
the best. Hey, go
Good to have
everyone out there in social media, go follow
Thank
Mike.
you.
Find him on Facebook and YouTube, and subscribe to his YouTube channel because it's killer good music. So
Yeah, I'm gonna start tuning in on Sundays. I didn't know that was happening.
do you do it every other Sunday? How often?
Yeah.
do you do it?
So not this Sunday coming up, but a week from Sunday, I'll be back out, and it usually is about 6 o'clock Pacific time. So it's a little later for Mountain and East time. But
Yeah, it's gonna make it late for me. About
yeah,
9 o'clock for me.
a lot of people listen to the replay, but yeah.
Yeah, you can catch his replays. Go back on his wall and catch some of those, and just throw them on every now and again. It's killer
Yeah,
good.
well,
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
All right,
Mike,
we're gonna
thank
end
Much
it.
love, you guys.
We're gonna end it there. We love you guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.